President Obama raises the stakes in Syria's civil war, ordering shipments of weapons to moderate rebel forces. The decision comes after the White House said it had confirmed that troops loyal to President Bashar al-Assad have used chemical weapons during the conflict, killing up to 150 people and crossing what the president has described as a red line. Good morning, I'm Michael Casey. Welcome to the News Hub. For more on this significant development in a war that is now into its third year, we turn to Andrew Tabler, Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
So, you know, Andrew, this announcement comes some weeks after rebel forces first claimed that the government had used chemical weapons against their people. Some will say the decision to arm them is a case of too little too late. Are they right?
Well, not entirely. The rebels are desperate for weapons. We're still not sure if the administration, they are definitely providing military support. It's unclear exactly if they're providing weapons and what kind of weapons those will be. And that's really where the details are here. If they provide something sophisticated, something that will allow them to push back Assad's aircraft and troops more effectively, then this can change the tide of battle. If it's just something light or non-lethal in nature, it's unlikely to change the balance on the ground.
Okay, it's our understanding that it was in fact lethal weapons, but that will, of course would be significant. We also understand that there's a no-fly zone, no-fly order in place over Syrian airspace. How significant is that?
Well, it would depend on what kind of options they would be looking at. That's certainly one of the options, and that would allow, you could create a no-fly zone, for example, with Patriot missile batteries, using aircraft that are just in neighboring countries, or finally flying over the country. So there are a lot of different options. They're all being explored as everybody looks and watches the Syria crisis reach the approximately 100,000 killed in the former Yugoslavia, but in half the time. And that's what everybody's staring at.
Right, it's a history repeating itself is the great concern. But the other concern, of course, I mean, to use almost a cliche, is the Vietnam one, or let's say the Afghanistan one. I mean, is the US at risk of dragging itself into a difficult sectarian conflict that just could drag on in an extremely complicated scenario right on the border of Israel?
Yeah, it's one of those situations where even though you didn't break it, you still might buy into the cleanup. So far, just this year, the U.S. has spent $760 million on that cleanup. You know, that's substantial, and that's only going to go up soon.
Right. What about the state of the war, though? Because, of course, in this interim period, Assad has gone into something of an alliance with Hezbollah and has made some progress, particularly in battles for strongholds in Aleppo. How close are we to sort of some shift in the war there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Assad is on the offensive mostly through help from Hezbollah and the Iranians, learning a little bit from their mistakes. Now, whether they retake Aleppo or not is another matter, but the rebels now are having to make hard choices. This is only going to be one battle in a pretty long war that's likely to last years in what we call today Syria.
And what do we know about this chemical weapons use? Apparently relatively small amounts, but of course, even small amounts, of course, is an extreme breach of international norms and accepted practices. And how significant was it? And really, why would they have used it, knowing this could only provoke the international community?
I think they were calling Obama's bluff. I think they knew that he didn't want to intervene, that they were testing and pushing the red line. Assad does this all the time, and he gets away with it. And so far, he has gotten away with it. The question is, will the Obama administration's response stop him from using the full lethality of his arsenal? He has a lot more nastier weapons in his arsenal. He could use them against his own people, and that would be a disaster for them and a disaster for U.S. foreign policy.
And of course, some of those nasty weapons have been delivered by Russia. And I understand that the administration has shared the information it has on the chemical weapons use with the Russians. Is this likely to sway Moscow in any way?
I doubt it. So far, they've backed Assad to the hilt, and I don't expect they're going to walk away from him right now, but we'll have to wait and see.
Could this escalate even further? Ground troops, U.S. troops?
Well, that's the problem. The conventional wisdom of the administration is wait, don't get involved, and it'll get better. That hasn't happened going on 2.5 years. It's hard to see how doing more of the same, keeping a hands-off approach, is going to make this better. But troops, boots on the ground, unlikely at this point. Certainly not in offensive capacity, but it's early on in the war, and we really are staring and looking into the abyss as we look at the Syria crisis.
Well, you obviously follow this very closely. What would you advocate as the solution at this stage?
Yeah, I've written this up in an upcoming piece for Foreign Affairs, and it's very simple. One is you have to lay down the red line. Two, you have to establish safe zones. Three, you have to work with the opposition in border areas of Syria and within the country. And then last but not least, we have to go to negotiations involving the Russians. Until now, the administration has reversed that. They've pursued negotiations first and dealing with rebels last.
All right, Andrew. Well, thank you very much for your time.